Welcome, friend. Settle in, because what we are about to explore is not merely a book, but a profound conversation with the very architecture of the human mind. Imagine sitting in a quiet room, the noise of the world fading away, as we unpack one of the most controversial, deeply hidden, and ultimately liberating manuscripts of the 20th century, Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. Before we delve into its pages, it is essential to understand its remarkable journey. Penned in 1938, this manuscript was deemed so radical, so potentially disruptive to the established norms of society, that it was locked away by Hill's own family for 72 years. His wife, fearing the inevitable backlash from organized religion and the traditional education system, ensured it remained buried. It was not until the Napoleon Hill Foundation, with careful editorial stewardship and respectful annotation by Sharon Lechter, recognized its timeless, urgent message that it was finally brought to light. This process honored the original intellectual property while making its profound wisdom accessible to modern minds. What you are about to hear is not a tale of fantasy, but a psychological and spiritual masterclass, framed as a startling, almost courtroom-like interrogation between Napoleon Hill, whom the text refers to as Mr. Earthbound, and the devil himself. To truly grasp the magnitude of this dialogue, we must first adjust our lens on the identity of this so-called devil. Forget the mythical beast with a forked tongue and a spiked tail. In this extraordinary confession, the devil defines himself simply as negative energy. He exists as the negative portion of the atom, occupying the unused, unoccupied space within the human mind. His domain is not a fiery underworld, but the here and now. He boasts that his greatest weapon, the primary tool he uses to ensnare humanity, is fear. Specifically, he cultivates the fear of poverty and the fear of death, planting these seeds so deftly that individuals believe these terrors are their own natural creations. By keeping people terrified of lacking material resources or facing the unknown, he ensures they remain pliable, anxious, and entirely dependent on external validation, thereby surrendering their independent thought. This brings us to the cornerstone of the devil's strategy, a concept Hill terms drifting. If you wish to understand how the vast majority of people lose control of their destinies, you must understand drifting. A drifter is an individual who permits themselves to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of their own mind. They do not think for themselves, rather, they accept whatever life throws their way without protest or purpose. They hold opinions, but these opinions are not their own. They are supplied by the devil through societal pressure, media, and unquestioned traditions. The devil explains that he initiates this habit of drifting in early childhood. He does this by manipulating the very institutions that are supposed to guide the youth: parents, public schools, and religious instructors. He notes, with a chilling sense of pride, that these well-meaning adults often unknowingly serve his purpose. They teach children to memorize facts rather than how to think independently, instilling a fear of failure or hell, effectively breaking down the child's innate power of independent thought before they even have the chance to develop it. However, drifting alone is not enough to permanently seal a person's fate. This is where the devil employs a universal law of nature, a principle he calls hypnotic rhythm. To understand hypnotic rhythm, consider how a musician learns to play a melody. Through constant repetition, the notes and the rhythm become fixed in the mind and the muscles. Until playing the tune requires no conscious effort, it becomes a permanent habit. Hypnotic rhythm is the natural law that takes any thought, any habit, or any action that is repeated over time and makes it permanent. It is the whirlpool of nature. If a person drifts, if they consistently entertain negative thoughts, fear, or procrastination, hypnotic rhythm eventually takes over. It crystallizes those negative habits into the person's very character and destiny. Once a habit reaches the stage of hypnotic rhythm, it is incredibly difficult to break. The individual becomes permanently entangled in a web of their own making, bound to a life of mediocrity, entirely unaware that they surrendered their freedom of thought. The interview takes a fascinating turn when Hill presses the devil on the role of failure and adversity. Common sense dictates that failure is the devil's ultimate victory, yet the devil reveals a profound paradox. He admits that failure is actually one of his greatest enemies when it is properly understood. You see, the devil relies on people accepting failure as a permanent, defining condition. When a person fails and quits, they drift into despair, and hypnotic rhythm locks them into that defeated state. But if an individual recognizes that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent advantage, failure becomes a blessing in disguise. Adversity has the unique power to break the grip of negative hypnotic rhythm. It shatters old, ineffective habits and forces the individual to pause, reflect, and forge a new path. It is nature's way of resetting the board. The devil despises this because a person who learns from failure, who refuses to quit, is actively engaging their independent thought, thereby reclaiming their mind from his control. As we reach the heart of this profound exploration, we must pause to reflect on the trap that has been laid out before us, and more importantly, the definitive blueprint for liberation. The devil is compelled to reveal the exact formulas and principles that human beings can use to break his grip. This blueprint consists of 7 interwoven psychological and spiritual principles which we must weave together seamlessly. The first and most foundational pillar is definiteness of purpose. A mind anchored by a definite purpose is a fortress the devil cannot breach. When you know exactly what you want and have a definite plan to achieve it, you close the doors of your mind to negative influences. Closely tied to this is the second principle, mastery over self, or self-discipline. The devil reveals that you can never hope to master your environment if you cannot first master your own physical and emotional appetites, specifically the desire for excessive food, the dissipation of sexual energy, and the habit of expressing loosely organized opinions. To sustain this resilience, you must apply the remaining principles in concert. You must deliberately choose your environmental influences by forming a mastermind alliance of positive, harmonious associates who elevate your thinking. You must harness the fourth dimension of time, which will solidify whatever habits you feed it, meaning you must consciously feed it positive, constructive thoughts rather than worry. You must apply the principle of harmony to align yourself with natural laws and supportive people, recognizing that nature forces everything within an environment to relate harmoniously. Finally, you must exercise rigorous caution, thinking your plans through before taking action, which serves as the ultimate shield against the devil's traps and prevents you from drifting into hazardous circumstances. As we draw this extraordinary confession to a close, consider the profound simplicity of the solution. Napoleon Hill realized, after years of hardship, poverty, and temporary defeat, that he had been carrying the matches in his own pocket with which the fires of his adversity were being touched off. The water to extinguish those fires was always at his command. The devil's dominion is not maintained by supernatural magic, but by our own voluntary surrender of independent thought. He occupies only the unused space in the human mind. When you fill that space with definiteness of purpose, self-discipline, a willingness to learn from adversity, a carefully curated environment, a wise use of time, a commitment to harmony, and rigorous caution, there is simply no room left for the devil to reside. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You possess the inalienable right to freedom of thought, and with that freedom comes the absolute responsibility to direct it. By awakening your other self, that faith-driven, limitless entity within you, you step out of the shadows of drifting and into the light of self-determination. You become, as the poet William Ernest Henley so perfectly declared, the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. This is the ultimate secret to freedom and success. The choice, now and forever, is entirely yours.